Now it's time for us to use another type of vinyl printer here. This one actually prints on the vinyl, and then the vinyl can either be printed on material that is sticky, as in you can make stickers, or possibly it could be heat pressed onto a t-shirt or a bag or your hoodie or whatever you like. So the setup for this printer is a little bit different, and there are some very specific instructions that you need to follow, so please pay attention. So in the end, I'll show you a couple that I have finished already. I've got a couple of pictures of Homer Simpson here, and I've placed those on this document, and then on top of that, on a layer on top, there's a special pink outline that tells the printer that I want to cut on that outline. That outline is moved a little bit away, so there's always a little bit of a white edge around these stickers because it doesn't cut very precisely. So you want to intentionally leave a little bit of white, otherwise it'll just kind of leave little patches of white and it doesn't look very good. So to do this, we're going to use Illustrator to set it up. We're going to set up a new file. The roll of sticker material, or the heat press material, is 27 inches wide, so you can theoretically make something that big. However, you certainly don't need to use all that space, and I'm not even necessarily encouraging you to do that, but that is sort of the maximum that we can do, is 27 inches across. I'm just going to leave my height at about 6 inches, and then set up from there. And again, not necessarily use all of that. You don't really need to change anything else. The color mode, here we are printing something out, so having it set up for CMYK definitely makes the most sense. And our raster effect should be at 300 pixels per inch. Probably is already. Shouldn't need to change any of that. I'll just call this my stickers, something like that, and I'll create that. When you do this, of course, you want to save your file on your computer. Do not save it in the cloud. Save it on your computer in your OneDrive folder. So I have a graphic tech folder where I save most of my work. Inside of my OneDrive, I have a graphic tech folder. I'm going to save my sticker file inside of there. Now in here, again, don't really need to change anything else. Just click OK. Now I've got my file saved, and now I'm ready to go. So we want to go and find some images to put on here. I highly recommend using Google Images if you want to find yourself little cartoon characters or logos or whatever. Using Bing is not necessarily a good idea, and I'll show you that, the magic of Google, in just a second here. So we want to find things that are not that are irregularly shaped, so not something that's not rectangular or circular, something that has a bit of an outline. So Google allows me to do that pretty easily. I'll go back to Homer Simpson just because I can't think of anything else. Google I love because it has this tools button. When I click on the tools button, it'll allow me to search by size, so I can limit it to large. Those are going to be my highest quality, best looking images. And for this one in particular, we don't want something rectangular. We want to separate the character from the background, so you might want to click on color and put it on transparent as well. Those should be ones that do not have a background to them, so we don't have to cut them out of a background, and we'll have that irregular shape. That just kind of makes life a little bit easier. So being able to change those two things, again, is highly recommended. So whatever, I'll just go with this one for now. So when I click on this one, I can see that this checkerboard pattern means that it has no background. The thing I'm noticing about this particular image is that somebody has cut it out, and there's a bit of a blue fuzz around it. I don't really like how that fuzz looks, so I'm going to choose a different one. That one doesn't really work for me. So here's one. This one, my problem with this one is that I want something that kind of has all one piece, if you know what I mean. So this one has these individual little strips of donut that are falling out of his mouth there. They're going to make it a little bit harder for me when I make my sticker. So I want things that are joined together and do not have kind of separate pieces. So I don't really like that one either. Choosing a good image for this project is super important. So whatever, this one's okay. I don't see any problems with this one, so I'll take this one. I'll go over here and right click on it and save image as, and then it'll just go in my downloads. Yours will probably just go automatically there, and then I'll just save that. I'll just grab a couple just in case. So here's another one that looks okay. Don't love the color of it, but whatever, you get the idea. I'll put that in my downloads. Yeah, good enough, good enough. So when I go back to my Illustrator to put those on the page, very important that you do it this way. Please go to File and Place. File and Place. Don't drop it on, don't copy and paste. File and Place. Now, here's a step that'll save you some trouble, and I'll show you this twice. When you go and find your file, if there's a little link or a little check mark that says link there, if you turn that link off, you can save yourself a step. And I'll show you that in just a second. So when I go to place, if I just click, it's probably going to be really big. That's too big for me. So what I usually prefer to do, and again, I'll make sure link is off. What I prefer to do is just draw a box. So on my page, if I just go and draw a box, that'll give me something that'll fit on the page. I don't have to resize it. If you are going to resize it, make sure you hold down the shift key on your keyboard if you grab one of those corners. Otherwise, you're going to squish or stretch your picture, and that does not look good. So please don't do that. If you are going to resize it, hold down the shift key and drag from the middle. That'll scale it proportionally. The other thing you can check is on your properties panel. Now I can see how wide and how tall my picture is. So it's about 2.5 inches by about 3.5 inches. That's not a bad size for a photo, or for a sticker, I mean. If I were making something to put on a t-shirt, I'd want it probably a little bit bigger than that, unless it's just kind of going in the corner on your chest kind of thing. But you want to pay a bit of attention to the size of these things. You don't want them super small, and you don't want them super big. So for a sticker, you know, kind of in the 2 or 3 inch range is probably pretty good. If you're making something for a t-shirt, often a large t-shirt image will be about, you know, kind of an 8.5 by 11 size piece of paper. Will fit on the front or the back of a t-shirt. So you kind of want to think about what you're making and what size you want it to be. But anyways, I will place that one on here. And then I'll just do that one more time with the other image. Did it even download? And this time I'll leave the link on when I place this one, and I'll just kind of show you the difference here. So I know they kind of look the same on my page, but there's a bit of a problem. Actually, did I forget it on this one too? I think it did. Anyway, so there's a bit of a problem when you get your image on here, in that if you are linking to a file, it is kind of a separate file on your computer, and that picture has to be made part of this image. Otherwise, when you hand it in, I will not get the picture on there, and your stickers either won't have the images at all, or they'll just look terrible. So I want to go and check one of a couple of places. So on my layers panel, I can see that they both have the same problem. And down on my properties panel, I can kind of see the same thing. So this file, this picture, needs to be part of this image file. I don't want it linked. I want it to be in here. To do that, I have to embed the image. I have to take that picture and put it part of this file. So I can see on my properties panel that I need to embed that. Now this is part of that file, and you can see that it's no longer linked. So I can see that here. I can see that I have to embed it here. Or you can also go, there's a links panel as well, and I can see on the links panel that this one is still linked. So I know that I need to embed that first. So I'm going to embed that image so it's part of this file, so that when you hand it in, you only have to hand in this one thing. So now that I've got my images on there, I want to start that process of outlining them and creating that sticker outline. So to do this, I'm going to create a second layer. So I'm just going to go and create a new layer here, and I'm going to take my image. You can do this one at a time or both of them, and I'm going to select both of them. I just drew a box. I'm going to edit and copy, and then I'm going to go onto my layer 2 here, and I'm going to paste in place. Paste in place. So that will put those images in exactly the same position, so I don't have to try to line them up later. So now I basically have the same thing up here and down there. If you don't select this and you paste them onto layer 1, you can always drag them up onto layer 2, but it's easier if you just select layer 2 and then paste in place, and they'll be on there. Now with the bottom layer, I'm gonna actually lock that. I don't want to change that. I don't want to mess it up somehow, and I'll actually turn it off so I can't even see it. That'll just kind of help me a little bit later on as I go. So this next part, I'm going to do this one image at a time. I'm going to click on one of the images, and then I can use Illustrator to create a drawing of that. Right now there are no outlines of this. It's an image. Those are all pixels, right? It's a raster image. But I want it to be drawn as if it were created here in Illustrator. I want a vector copy of that. So to do that, there's a couple of places you can do it. You can either do it from the Object menu and do something called Image Trace, or on my Properties panel, there's an Image Trace button there as well. And this one, you can decide sort of how high quality you want your image to go. Now when Illustrator turns something into a vector, we can do it really, really simply with something like, well, line art, I guess, would be fairly simple. You can see that doesn't look very good. I'm going to undo that. Or we can go all the way to high fidelity photo, wherein it tries to create as realistic an image as possible. For this, look at how good that is. Wow. That's not bad. For this, it kind of doesn't matter. I'll just leave it on high fidelity photo. The problem with high fidelity photo is if you are going to do something fairly large, that process might take a long time, and it might kind of overwhelm your computer a bit. But so now I've got this picture that is actually drawn, so it'll probably look a little bit different. Yeah, you can see it looks a little bit different than the original. I'll just turn that back off. If I select this image now, I can now create those outlines. I can see the paths by clicking the button that says expand. So there's a button on my properties panel that says expand. I can convert the tracing object to paths. I can also do that from the object menu. I can expand there. And again, that just sort of takes that drawing and turns it into those separate vector lines. And now you can see all that red stuff is the paths that make up this photo. And if I switch to my outline view, Control Y, you can see that now all those little lines are the little paths that make up this photo. Right now they're all grouped together, so it's all one big group of stuff. And part of the group is the outline, so it creates this box around the image. I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to click off of my group here, and the very bottom part of that group is usually just an outline. And it's usually the one at the very bottom. Now, depending on the image, sometimes there's another one that you have to kind of find. But for me, I can see very clearly that this is just the outline for the image. I want to get rid of that. On my keyboard, I'm just going to backspace. So now I've got this image without any kind of an outline. It's still grouped together. And it looks like, because I have this selection box around it, it looks like there's a path there, but there actually isn't. Right? There's no black line around it like there is around this other one. So I'll select that again, and what I want to do here is I want to turn that whole thing into one big shape, one big blob, and ideally it'll just be kind of the outline. So on my Pathfinder panel or in Properties, there's Pathfinder there, I want to unite all of that. I want to take all those pieces and just turn them into one outline. And if you're lucky, and it looks like I was, you'll see a nice clear outline that looks just like that. Wonder what's going on with this ear business here. Oh, because I'm still in the outlines. Oh, that's a hair. Right. Okay, so that's fine. The problem with it now is that it's for some reason filled this shape in with gold, so I can't see the sticker underneath. So to do this, I'm going to take the fill on my properties panel and I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to make it invisible. The next thing I want to do is I want to take the stroke, and the stroke, the outline, is a very specific color that you need to download from my website. With these instructions, you will see a link to download a file that's called Roland Versa Works. To do this next part, I need to open up my swatches panel. So I'm going to go to Window and Swatches, and in the swatches panel at the top right, there's that little hamburger menu, that 3 stripes. I'm going to open Swatch Library and go to Other Library. Okay, and then that's going to give me a little selection window here that I can use to go and find that Roland Versa Works file that you should have downloaded, and I should have downloaded again, obviously. Anyway, this is what happens when you don't download it right away. I'm just going to go grab it from my handout folder, but you should download that and find it in your downloads. There's mine. When I open that, it'll open up this separate color swatch window. I need to take this first pink color and add it to my main swatches panel. So I usually drag it from here into the end of my other colors. So I'll just drag it from here over to there, and now I have that special color. And I know it's a special color because it's a spot color. It has that little dot in it, and it's called Cut Contour. It's a very special blend of pink. And what I'll do is I'll take the stroke from my item and I will change it to that color. Now I want this stroke to be very thin, not super thick, so I'm going to change the weight of it as well to 0.25. And now I have my Homer Simpson picture outlined. There's one more thing that I want to do. You can see here, it's just the outline. I probably want to get rid of this little anchor as well, actually, now that I see that. There are some little weird things. If you see kind of separate little items, sometimes those will cause a bit of a problem. So before I move on, I'm going to click off of that and I'm going to go into this group here. Let's see, what have we got? What is all this stuff? Okay, so I'm going to take this group and I'm going to ungroup it. Oh, because I haven't got it selected, that's why. Ungroup it, and ideally I think all I want is this pink outline. So I'm going to take all this other stuff and get rid of it. So I'm going to lock this one, and then I'm just going to draw a box and see what else it selects. So it selects, there's some little weird stuff over here. All this other stuff can probably go. So if I've got my main outline locked, I should just be able to highlight that, press delete and get rid of it, and be left with just the one main outline. If I lock that again or unlock that again, I can see that looks much better. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is I want to move that outline a little bit farther away from the actual image. So I'm going to go to Object and Path and Offset Path. Offset just means it'll move it a little farther away. I can also do it over here, as you can see. Now, offset path, here's where you choose how much white space there's going to be around your image. I'm going to take that and just make it, I usually just make it about 1/10 of an inch, so 0.1 inches. That's still quite a bit of white space. I mean, you could kind of change that a little bit, play with that, and see what a smaller amount looks like. Like, what does 0.05 look like? I guess I can't even do that. So 0.1 of an inch, 1/10 of an inch, that's not a bad amount. So I'm just going to move that. And then if I look at that, sometimes when it's on miter, it's not a very smooth outline. So sometimes I like to change this to round. And here I can't really see much of a difference, but just trust me when I tell you that round sometimes works a little better, so I'm going to switch it to that. And then I'm just going to click OK. Now the problem here is that now it's created two of those outlines. I've got one that's right on the outline, and then one that's moved a little farther away. So I want to take the inside one. I'm just going to select that inside one. You can see it's this path right here. And I just want to get rid of that. So the inside one, I'll just backspace. So all I have is this one outline of Homer Simpson, and if I turn that back on, now you can see that I've got him and I've got that outline. So that's basically the idea. The last little step here is I have to go to Object, and with that special pink color selected, I have to flatten transparency. So flatten transparency, I'm not even going to try to explain it to you. I'm just going to tell you to do it. If we take this, I usually like to change it to high resolution and then OK. And basically that'll just take that pink color and make it so that it's going to cut properly. So I can see, just double check again, there's no fill. It still has that same pink stroke. And then I'm going to take this file and I'm going to save as, and it's very important when you hand in a sticker that it's a PDF. Now when I go to create my PDF, if I click save, continue with PDF, if I click save, sometimes you'll get a warning here. This little warning, this little exclamation mark means that there's a problem. So this one still has spot colors and transparency. So in this case, it's probably going to be one of my other images that I just need to check. But if you see that warning, it just means that something has not been flattened properly. So basically, I'm just going to grab these ones. I haven't even done anything to them yet, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to select those. I've locked this other one, and I will try to flatten the transparency of those. I'll put them on high and OK. And then I'll just take all these images and put them back on layer 1 because I want my outlines to be still on top on layer 2. So if I go to File and Save As and make this a PDF now, so now you can see on the summary there's no more warning. So flattening that transparency is very important. Watch for those warnings. If that warning is still on, it means you have some more transparency to flatten. So now I've got my outlines on this top part. They're that special color. I've got a separate layer down below with my images. I've got no warnings. I can save that PDF and hand it in. Just because I have that, you're done. If you can follow all that, that's great. If not, I'm going to do this other image really quickly just for fun. I bet I've kind of messed it up by grouping it the way that I have. Let me just place that one again. So I'm going to start all over again. File, place, and go in my downloads, wherever those are. I got a lot of junk here. What was this one, right? Yeah. So I'll place that on layer 1. Okay. Then I'm going to make sure that it's embedded. I'm going to copy that image. I'm going to go to layer 2. And I'm going to paste in place. So now I have 2 of those. I'll lock this bottom layer and turn it off, and then select this image right here, and then I'm going to trace that image to turn it into those paths. So image trace, I'll put it on high fidelity photo again. See it take a minute. Now it's got all that traced. I need to expand to turn it into those pink paths. So there we go, I've got those pink paths now. And then all I want to do is go into that group, find the outline, which is usually the very bottom layer. So I'll just select that bottom layer and I'll backspace that. I'm curious about this one. Oh, see, there's another little weird schmeggly. I'll just get rid of that one too. That looks okay. So now I have all of this stuff, and that looks pretty good. Once I've got it all selected, that group again, I want to use the Pathfinder to turn it into one solid shape. And actually when I do that, I can see that it does have this one little bit up here that I don't need. So I should have a solid shape. This part I don't need, so I'll just delete that part. Select that solid shape, Go to my fill, no fill, my stroke. I've already got that cut contour color in there, so I can just change it to that. I can make it 0.25, nice and thin. I can offset that path. I'll just select it. Object, path, offset path. I'll move it out by 0.1, make it rounded again. Then I'll take the inside one, that one there, right? Yeah, that one there, and backspace it. And you can see that I've got now my little outline. The only thing that bugs me a little bit is that I have this little cut in between Homer's legs here. It's probably not going to cause me any problems though. It's just going to be a little bit of a gap in my sticker. If I wanted to, I could always go and get rid of that little part. I could use my direct selection tool and remove, if I select this object here, I could always just get rid of it, which probably makes more sense. Then I'll take that top layer, object, flatten transparency, make it high resolution, okay. Just check again, I've got my fill, nothing, my stroke is still that special color. And now if I go to File, Save As, again PDF. Let's see, do I have any warnings this time? I do, because, oh yeah, because this image was transparent. I should flatten the transparency of that as well. I'll just lock this top layer. I don't want to mess it up. I'll select this image here, object, flatten transparency, high resolution, okay. Now if I go to save it as a PDF, now I have no warnings, save, good to go. So all of that is important. Hopefully you followed all those steps. Once you've got that, if you want me to print out your sticker or possibly a heat transfer cutout, we can do that.